Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to another Borderlands 3 video. In today's video, we're going to be going over a Zane build that is great for mobbing, it is great for bossing, and we are using no DLC gear, we are using no raid weapons, none of that. This is all the base game, easy to get items, and easy to farm for gear. So before we get into the video, don't forget to drop a like and subscribe to the channel if you want to help out my analytics. If you're already subscribed, hit that notification bell to get notified when I post. And besides that, let's get into it. Now, this build is pretty crazy how everything works put together. We're actually using a skill tree that shouldn't really work out together, and I'm going to tell you guys why. But in this build, it does for these strategies we're using. And we're using a lot of not just commonly used stuff to really make this build work and really make it shine for mobbing and bossing, and that's what's so great. So let's get straight into it. First, let's go over the skill trees. As you can see, this is a calm, cool, collected build, and that's because this is the best skill for mobbing in the base game for Zane. And then we're using seein red, and this is the best skill for bossing, once again, in the base game for Zane. Because obviously this is going to activate all your kill skills. Calm, cool, collected is going to help you keep up your action skills. You guys get it. Now, the thing is, these skills actually do not work well together normally. Seein red, you basically activate your kill skills when your action skills are active, but with calm, cool, collected, most people played the barrier and the drone, so their action skills were always active, meaning while they were mobbing, they get no value out of seein red. And then, since we have not many spare points for the red tree, we're not getting that damage from synchronicity, we're not getting that damage from Donnybrook, stuff like that. With the level cap, we were able to stick some points into borrowed time, which is great. But let's talk about why this build works where those other ones didn't. So we are actually using the barrier and the clone, and that's how this build comes together for mobbing. So the clone, we basically put the clone out, we let him die. He activates action skill end anointments, and then we bring him right back with calm, cool, collected. And when we deploy our clone again, we get that value from seein red. So we are basically cycling action skill end anointments, and we are cycling our kill skills using calm, cool, collected, and seein red. Now, I'm not going to lie, it is actually pretty unfortunate we can't use doppelbanger in this build, but the clone, without boom enhance, without like you trying to keep him alive, he dies pretty fast. So while mobbing, it's not a huge deal, and this build can boss just fine anyway. So one major reason why this all works out so well is because of violent momentum. This skill is absolutely nuts. I mean, I've already posted a bunch of videos about how good this skill is, but it is just very good. It really does carry this build. The other good things about this build is good misfortune. A couple extra points in good misfortune helps us keep our action skills up longer. Those extra points from the level cap going into borrowed time helps us keep our action skills up longer. We always have salvation active because we are cycling our clone. So this build is pretty well-rounded. And we can mob with it, we can boss with it. I'm just talking so I can play some clips in the background so you guys can see. And yeah, we're also using some other cool strategies. Basically, the main strategy I'm doing is I'm wearing the frozen heart shield. So when I put my clone out and enemies go to kill him, they all freeze and it triggers calm, cool, collected. The frozen heart shield is a pretty good shield anyway, so I highly suggest farming for it and using it with this build. Anytime your shield breaks, you will freeze all the enemies around you, and calm, cool, collected will make your shield start recharging. So we're basically going to be using the frozen heart shield, and I'm going to show you guys some of my gear later. I'm also stacking shield recharge rate really hard for the mobbing sections. And yeah, so let's cover the gear. So this is our loadout for mobbing. Now you want multi-pellet weapons to trigger brain freeze or some fast firing weapons. The hellshock is pretty good. The main weapon I like using is actually the boom sickle after the buff. This gun's pretty great. Now the main anointment we're looking for is barrier, accuracy, and crit. And this makes multi-pellet weapons into little snipers for you so you can brain freeze enemies easily. Now one weapon I actually suggest farming for is a cryo lob. Now this thing just does so much damage that you will freeze enemies just by shooting this at them. Like this, like, you know what I mean. I'm used to just freezing enemies with brain freeze and not with actual cryo damage, but the lob is so powerful, especially for mobbing, it works out really well. Besides that, I highly suggest getting a brainstormer and a sickle. The barrier anointments are the most commonly used, but since we are cycling our clone a lot, you can also use some action skill end anointments. I like the crit damage anointments though, because we have a lot of gun damage in our build from violent momentum. And yeah, there's a lot of different weapons you can use. You also notice I'm not using a redistributor. The redistributor is amazing in this build, but I wanted to use weapons that weren't from the raid, so that this build is more accessible, and this loadout works fine. Now, the main shield we're using is the Frozen Heart. You can also use quick recharging shields instead. That's going to be best with Calm, Cool, Collected, so like a Band of Sidorak or even a Big Boom Blaster. But the reason why I like using the Frozen Heart is once again with the clone. And next, the grenade doesn't matter at all for mobbing because we actually don't get to use any grenade skills in this build. You basically just want elements on action skill end and make sure you're mismatching because the same element doesn't stack. Besides that, I still have a Snowdrift on, but toss on an Icebreaker. Look for like AoE, even mag size, stuff like that. Now, the main cool thing here, the reason why you guys see my sickle doing so much damage in the clips is because I have this AoE on my Icebreaker. I know I do also happen to have assault rifle damage. I've had this Icebreaker for a long time. You can see it's still level 50. I didn't expect to use this on a boomsicle, but that's why my boomsicle is doing so much damage. Now, of course the assault rifle damage is helping, but that AoE is probably the biggest part. So if you could find either of these on your artifact, that's going to do a lot of work for you. And finally, I want to take a look at the class mod. Now, we're using a Cold Warrior. I finally got a good roll with shield recharge rate. I got a couple weapon passives. And if you notice, I have 3 points in ready for action. Now, I am stacking a bunch of shield recharge rate because I'm using the Frozen Heart. We can basically skip the delay, and it has a decently small delay anyway, but we can skip the delay because of Calm, Cool, Collected. You want bonuses to the recharge rate because that'll basically fill up our shields super fast. If you're watching the mobbing clips, you'll notice that my shield recharge rate is super fast, and that's because I'm stacking it really hard. And that helps with the consistency of this build and getting Calm, Cool, Collected to trigger. And yeah. Now, for the bossing weapons and the bossing build, the first thing I want to mention is always keep a multi-pellet weapon on you. You can use a Maggie, just whatever you have. You can even use your brainstormer. You can trigger Calm, Cool, Collected off of bosses. So what you can basically do is let your action skills end, or you can keep up your action skills by hitting boss critical hit spots. And yeah, so always have one of these on you while you're bossing. Now, the other thing is, it doesn't matter what action skills you're using for bossing. If you watch some of the different clips, I did pull out my Sentinel, and that's because I have a lot of Sentinel anointed stuff, because I'm usually not playing a clone barrier build. I'm always playing either Sentinel barrier or Sentinel clone, so I didn't actually have a lot of barrier crit weapons. I had to go trade around for some. So I actually pulled my Sentinel out for some of these bossing clips, and that's because my Scourges are Sentinel anointed. And then another thing is you can put on an amp shield for bossing. And yeah, now keep in mind with amp shields, you won't be able to trigger Calm, Cool, Collected. So if you don't want to wear an amp shield, just toss on a Sidorak or a Big Boom Blaster, something that recharges quickly. The Frozen Heart will do nothing against bosses. But yeah, violent momentum, you can get absurd amounts of damage out of this. So sliding with a Snowdrift and shooting is the best bossing method on Zane. Now, for class mods, you can wear an Infiltrator or an Executor or an Antifreeze. Now, I didn't want to include the Antifreeze because it's a really hard class mod to farm for. The Executor is more than good enough. This is a very good bossing comm. It gives you critical hit damage. We get some extra points into playing dirty. So, yeah, you saw we're able to one-shot Grave Ward. Now, the Grave Ward one-shot is a little harder. It's a little more annoying, only because you actually have to hit the center of his chest. But I should be playing a second Grave Ward clip where it just shows me where I don't one-shot him, and it doesn't matter. Because we shoot the Scourge at him a second and a third time, and it works. And that is all the gear for this build. So with the skill trees and the gear out of the way, that is pretty much it for this build. Basically, while mobbing, just stack your shield recharge rate, get your Frozen Heart shield, your clone, cycle through, and for bossing, use whatever action skills you want to get the job done. Violent momentum will carry your speed shots and your boss kills. And yeah, so I hope you guys enjoyed this build and the video. No DLC, no raid gear, none of that necessary. This build works, and it's pretty great. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe. It helps me out. And I appreciate all you guys for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one. I'm out.